we have to look at life as a totality, right? What happens often is that when something difficult is happening to us, we focus on that. And that is the totality of our being, the totality of our life. When of course, in reality, no matter what situation we are going through, it almost never is the totality of things. It is one aspect, often a very small aspect, but sometimes a very big aspect. And we would often like to think, if I could only get rid of this thing, right? If I only didn't have to feel this pain, or if I only didn't have to go through this challenge. But the reality is, she would tell my father, and he recounted it to us, that if you imagine everybody took the totality of their life as a package, and you brought all of humanity together, and they all threw up their packages, and it was all in one big pile, everybody would wind up going back. And the idea being, you are allowed to now pick whichever package you want. Of course, the good and the bad. Everybody would wind up picking up their own package again. The idea, of course, is that, yes, there are parts of our lives that are challenging. There are parts of our lives that are painful. But if we look at it in totality, the reality is that we are blessed with the totality of life. And I think it's often important, whether we're going through a big challenge or a small challenge, or great pain or a small pain, to see it in the perspective of the totality of my life. And what that means, and this is a thought that I often use, and I know I share this with you. Something happens, upsetting, disappointing. The ego nature is to simply focus on that. And that, if it's painful, if it's difficult, it darkens everything else that we can think about in our lives. The Baal Shem Tov, the great Kabbalist, uses the example of the sun shining, and it's a beautiful day, but you could take a penny and put it on your eye, and take 2 pennies, put them in both of your eyes, and now everything is dark. And he said, how crazy is it that 2 pennies, worthless, can block out the great force and light of the sun? Of course, in reality, we do that every day. We do that every single day. We get an annoying text, we get a challenging phone call. Again, and of course, there's a gamut of things, but I think it's often easy to see the wisdom in the small things that we allow to darken our life. Too often, we are not focusing on the totality of our life, and therefore totality of blessings, but allow pennies, completely often unimportant things, to obscure the great light that is our life. Mm-hmm. And even and when the challenges are greater, if we have the ability, and that's why I think it's so important when the small things happen, force yourself to use this thought and say, I am not going to allow a penny to obscure the great light of my life.